It was another day at the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop, nestled in the heart of Las Vegas. The shop hummed with its usual energy. Rick Harrison behind the counter, Corey, Big Hoss Harrison sorting through a pile of vintage memorabilia, and Austin Chumlee Russell tinkering with something that probably shouldn't have been plugged in. Tourists milled about, snapping photos as they browsed an eclectic mix of treasures ranging from rare coins to Civil War relics. The door creaked open, and a man walked in, his presence commanding attention. He wasn't flashy or loud. Instead, there was an air of quiet confidence about him. His eyes scanned the room before landing on Rick. In tow, he had two burly men who seemed more like bodyguards than friends. They flanked either side of him, their expressions unreadable but alert. "Hey, how's it going?" Rick greeted casually, though his curiosity was already piqued by the entourage. "Good, good," the man replied, nodding toward Rick. There was something deliberate in his tone, as if he were carefully choosing each word. "I got something pretty special to show you." Rick raised an eyebrow. Special items came through the doors of the pawn shop all the time. A signed guitar here, a piece of antique furniture there, but this guy carried himself differently. Something told Rick this wasn't just another run-of-the-mill item. "What do you have?" Rick asked, leaning slightly forward over the counter. The man smiled faintly, almost knowingly. "It's outside. Mind taking a look?" Rick hesitated for only a moment before shrugging. "Sure thing. Let's see what you've got." As Rick stepped out into the bright Nevada sun, followed closely by Big Hoss and Chumlee, the man gestured toward a covered vehicle parked near the curb. It was draped in a heavy tarp, obscuring its shape entirely. Even under the fabric, however, the outline suggested something substantial. A car, perhaps even a classic one. With a dramatic flourish, the man pulled back the tarp, revealing a sleek black 1996 BMW 750i. At first glance, it looked like any other luxury sedan from the mid-90s. Polished chrome accents, tinted windows, and leather upholstery visible through the windshield. But Rick immediately noticed something odd about the rear passenger side window. It was cracked, spiderwebbed with fractures radiating outward from a single point of impact. His stomach tightened. This wasn't just any car. And judging by the way the man stood beside it, hands clasped loosely in front of him, waiting for Rick's reaction, he knew exactly what kind of history this vehicle carried. This is Tupac Shaker's car," the man said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was calm, matter of fact, but the weight of his words hung heavily in the air. For a moment, no one spoke. Rick stared at the car, his mind racing. Tupac Shaker, an icon of hip-hop culture, a poet, a revolutionary figure whose influence spanned music, politics, and social justice, had died tragically young after being shot multiple times while riding in this very car. September 7, 1996. That date was etched into the memories of millions around the world. Las Vegas Boulevard, a drive-by shooting, chaos and confusion. And now, decades later, the car itself sat right in front of him, silent yet brimming with stories. "That's quite the claim," Rick said slowly, tearing his gaze away from the cracked window to look at the man. "How do we know it's authentic?" The man nodded, clearly expecting the question. From inside his jacket pocket, he produced a folder filled with documents, photographs, police reports, ownership records, and affidavits tracing the car's provenance back to the night of the shooting. As Rick flipped through them, he couldn't help but feel a chill creep up his spine. Everything checked out. The VN matched. Photographs taken at crime scenes showed the same distinctive damage to the window. There was even documentation detailing repairs made to the car after the incident, preserving the shattered glass as evidence rather than replacing it. "This is real," Rick murmured, almost to himself. "This is really his car." Big Hoss let out a low whistle, shaking his head in disbelief. Chumlee, ever the optimist, grinned excitedly. Wow, man. Can you imagine? We could put this in the shop window. People would come from everywhere to see it. But Rick wasn't so quick to jump on board. Authenticity alone didn't make something worth buying. At least not for him. He needed to weigh the risks, costs, and potential returns. And this particular item came with complications far beyond your average collectible. Okay, Rick said, turning back to the man. Let's talk numbers. What are you asking for it? The man crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. $2 million. Rick blinked. $2 million? For a car? Granted, it wasn't just a car. It was a piece of history tied to one of the most legendary figures in modern pop culture. But still, that's steep, Rick admitted bluntly. Even for something like this. I understand. The man replied smoothly. But consider what you're getting. This isn't just a car. It's a symbol. It represents an era, a movement, a tragedy that changed the landscape of music forever. Collectors' museums, they'd pay top dollar for this. Rick scratched his chin thoughtfully. He couldn't deny the man had a point. Items associated with iconic figures often fetched astronomical prices at auction. Michael Jackson's gloves, Marilyn Monroe's dresses, John Lennon's guitars, all had sold for sums that defied logic. And Tupac? His legacy only seemed to grow stronger with time. Millennials and Gen Z revered him as much as those who lived through his rise in the 90s. Demand for anything connected to him was undoubtedly high. Still, $2 million was a lot of money. Too much, Rick thought, especially given the inherent challenges of owning such a controversial artifact. Insurance premiums alone would be astronomical. Then there was the risk of vandalism or theft. People passionate enough to revere Tupac might also be reckless enough to damage the car in protest or desperation. Not to mention the ethical considerations. Owning a piece of someone's death felt morbid, somehow. Exploitative, even. Rick glanced at Big Hoss and Chumlee, both of whom looked eager to seal the deal. Their enthusiasm wasn't surprising. They saw dollar signs, headlines, and endless foot traffic flooding into the shop. But Rick had been in the business long enough to know better. Sometimes, the smartest move was walking away. "I'll tell you what," Rick said, addressing the seller. "I appreciate the offer, and I can see the value here. But $2 million is too rich for my blood. I'd need to get it appraised professionally, confirm every detail, and even then, I'm not sure I'd go that high. Honestly, I think you'd be better off selling it at auction. Christie's or Sotheby's, they specialize in stuff like this. You'd likely get your price, maybe even more." The man studied Rick for a long moment, his face unreadable. Finally, he nodded. "Fair enough. I figured you might say that. But I wanted to give you the first shot. You got a reputation for knowing quality when you see it." Rick chuckled dryly. "Yeah, well, I also have a reputation for staying in business. And spending $2 million on this. That's a gamble I'm not willing to take." With that, the man extended a hand, which Rick shook firmly. "Thanks for understanding. Maybe next time." As the trio watched the man and his entourage drive off, Chumlee broke the silence. "Man, I can't believe you passed on that. Imagine having that asterisk in the shop." "It's not about passing," Rick corrected, heading back inside. "It's about making smart decisions. That car comes with baggage, literal and figurative. Sure, it's valuable, but is it worth the headache? Nope. Some things are better left untouched." And with that, life at the pawn shop returned to normal, or as normal as it ever got. Another day, another extraordinary story.